Velther stared at the star map floating above the council table. A thick red line divided the galaxy into two sections. On one side, thousands of trade routes glowed in bright colors. Ships from hundreds of species crossed paths, carried goods, and shared knowledge. But on the other side of the red line, there was nothing. Just empty space marked with human symbols. "Why does nobody go there?" Velther asked. The elder council members stopped talking. The room became quiet. Too quiet. Corvin, the oldest member present, folded his forearms across his chest. "Because that is human space, young one. We do not enter. They do not leave. This arrangement has worked for 400 years. But why?" Velther pressed. "Are they dangerous? Are they hostile?" "They are." Corvin paused, searching for words. "They are isolated by choice. We respect that choice." Velther found this answer unsatisfying. Every species in the Galactic Council traded with others. Even the most private civilizations maintained diplomatic channels. But humans? Nothing. No trade. No cultural exchange. No tourism. Just a red line and silence. After the meeting ended, Velther went to the station's archive center. He searched through centuries of records. The border appeared suddenly in the files from 400 years ago. Before that date, humans had been active members of galactic society. They traded minerals, shared technology, and sent ambassadors to every major world. Then, nothing. Just a formal request to the Council. Humanity requests a defined boundary. We will not cross it. We ask that no other species cross it either. The Council had agreed within days. No debate, no questions. That alone was strange. The Council debated everything for months, sometimes years. But they accepted humanity's request immediately. Velther found the human embassy section of the station. It was small, tucked away in a corner that few visitors ever saw. A human woman in a blue uniform sat at the reception desk. Her name tag read Hannah. "Can I help you?" she asked with a polite smile. "I want to speak with Ambassador Tiemann," Velther said. Hannah's smile didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but the ambassador is very busy." "Perhaps I can answer your questions?" Velther hesitated. "I want to know about the boundary. Why does humanity isolate itself?" Hannah's fingers tapped on her desk. Once, twice. "That's a political matter. You'd need to speak with the ambassador. I can schedule something for next month." "Next month?" "The ambassador has a full calendar." Velther knew a deflection when he heard one. But before he could argue, a door opened behind Hannah. A human man stepped out, wearing formal robes in dark red. He had kind eyes and an easy smile. "It's fine, Hannah," the man said. "I have a few minutes." He looked at Velther. "I'm Tiemann. Please, come in." The office was simple. A desk, 2 chairs, and a window showing the stars. Tiemann sat down and gestured for Velther to do the same. "You want to know about the boundary," Tiemann said. It wasn't a question. Yes, every species trades, communicates, and visits each other. But humans don't. Why? Tiemann leaned back in his chair. "We value our privacy. For 400 years? Some of us value it very much." Tiemann's smile remained, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We're content within our space. We have everything we need. But you're cutting yourselves off from the galaxy. From progress. From friendship. Are we?" Tiemann asked softly. "We send ambassadors. We maintain diplomatic relationships. We share scientific discoveries through official channels. We simply prefer to do it from a distance." Velther felt frustrated. Every answer was polite but empty. "What are you hiding?" Tiemann's smile faded. "That's a dangerous question." "Dangerous how?" "Because some questions have answers you don't want to know." Taman stood up, signaling the meeting was over. I advise you to leave this matter alone, Velthor. The boundary exists for good reasons. Trust that the council understands those reasons. Velthor stood as well. The council won't tell me anything. Perhaps that should tell you something. Taman walked to the door and opened it. Have a pleasant day. Velthor left the office, passing Hana's desk again. As he reached the corridor, he heard footsteps behind him. Hana caught up to him, glancing around to make sure they were alone. You should stop asking questions, she said quietly. Why won't anyone give me a straight answer? Hana's expression became serious. Because the truth is complicated and frightening. So there's something. There's always something. There's always something. Hana looked at him directly. But you're asking the wrong questions. You think we built that boundary to keep others out. You're wrong. We built it to keep us in. Before Velthor could respond, Hana turned and walked back to her desk. He stood in the empty corridor, her words echoing in his mind. Keep us in. That night, Velthor couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Hana's warning, about Taman's careful non-answers, about the council's strange silence. Something happened 400 years ago. Something that made humanity retreat behind a border. Something that made the most talkative species in the galaxy agree to that border without question. And whatever it was, everyone who knew about it was terrified. Velthor made a decision. He would find the truth, no matter what it cost him. Because a mystery this deep, kept this carefully, had to mean something important. Something that affected not just humans, but potentially every species in the galaxy. He just didn't know yet how right he was, or how much he would wish he had listened to the warnings. Velthor spent 3 weeks searching for someone who would talk. Most council members refused to even discuss the topic. A few gave him the same empty answers Taman had provided. But finally, he found someone willing to help. Minho worked in the Human Historical Archives, a small building on the lower levels of the station. He was young for a human, with tired eyes and ink-stained fingers from handling old documents. When Velthor explained what he wanted, Minho shook his head. Those records are sealed, Minho said. I could lose my job. I just want to understand. Why does your species hide? Minho was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. I'll show you the public records. Nothing classified. But you won't like what you find. They went to a private room deep in the archives. Minho activated an old projection system. Images and text filled the air around them. 800 years ago, humans left Earth for the first time, Minho began. We were excited, hopeful. We built colony ships and sent them to distant stars. We met other species and joined the Galactic Council. For 200 years, everything was wonderful. The projections showed images of early human colonies. Happy faces. New cities under alien skies. Humans and other species working together. Then the disappearances started, Minho continued. His voice became quieter. Small ships at first. A mining vessel here. A research craft there. They'd go into deep space and never come back. No distress signals. No wreckage. Just gone. Ship malfunctions happen, Velthor said. That's what we thought too. But then it kept happening. Always in the same regions. Always in the deepest parts of human space. Far from any sun. Minho changed the projection. A map appeared, showing dozens of red dots. These are all the disappearances over 50 years. Notice anything? Velthor studied the map. The red dots formed a pattern, clustering in the dark spaces between stars. They're all in deep space. Exactly. And not just human ships. Alien vessels that visited those regions disappeared too. Minho's hands trembled slightly as he changed the image again. 3 council investigator ships went to examine the area. Only one came back. A video file began playing. It showed the interior of a spaceship. Alien beings that Velther didn't recognize sat at control stations. They looked terrified. "What are we seeing?" one of the aliens asked, staring at their scanners. "I don't know," another replied. "There's something out there. Multiple contacts. But they're not showing up properly. The readings are wrong." The ship's lights flickered. Someone screamed. Then the video cut to static. "That's all that survived from their data core," Minho said. The ship made it back to Council space, but it was damaged. Half the crew was missing. The other half wouldn't talk about what they saw. Most of them went insane within a year. Velther felt cold. What happened to them? The Council never released an official report. But my grandmother was a historian. She told me stories. Minho paused. The surviving crew members all said the same thing in their final days. They said they saw humans in space, but not in ships, just floating, moving, alive. That's impossible. No organic being can survive in vacuum. Exactly. Minho met Velther's eyes. After that incident, humanity held an emergency summit. 2 months later, they requested the boundary. The Council agreed so fast that some members didn't even read the full proposal. Why would the Council agree so quickly? Because they were scared. My grandmother showed me unofficial notes from that time. One Council elder wrote, "Let them contain themselves." Better that than us trying to contain them. Velther's mind raced. What are you saying? That humans evolved into something that can live in space? I'm saying that something changed in the humans who went too deep. Something in their biology reacted to deep space, to radiation, to the void between stars. Minho turned off the projections. The boundary wasn't created to keep others out. It was created to keep humanity's problem contained. But you're still human. You're fine. Because I stay near stations, near stars. I've never been in deep space for more than a few days. Minho looked at his hands. There's a medical exam every human in deep space must take. Every 6 months. If you fail, you're pulled back to inhabited areas immediately. No exceptions. What does the exam check for? Changes. Cellular changes. Genetic drift. The signs that you're becoming something else. Minho's voice dropped to a whisper. Most humans serve 20 years in deep space positions. Some serve 30, but nobody serves longer than that. By then, the changes start becoming irreversible. Where do they go? The ones who change. Minho didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was barely audible. Nobody knows. They disappear into the deep dark. Maybe they die. Maybe they join whatever's out there. Velther stood up, pacing the small room. This is insane. Why doesn't humanity tell the Council? Ask for help? What help could they give? This is something in human DNA. Something that activates in deep space. No other species has this problem, because no other species has our genetic makeup. Minho shut down the archive system. We told the Council enough to make them understand the danger. They agreed to the boundary. Everyone pretended it was about human preference for privacy. But both sides knew the truth. And your people just accepted this? Just agreed to cut themselves off? What choice did we have? Minho asked. Either we limit our expansion and protect the galaxy, or we keep spreading and risk creating more of those things. Humanity chose responsibility over ambition. Velther felt his world shifting. Everything he thought he knew about the boundary was wrong. I need to speak to my mentor. Karathan is old enough to remember first contact. She might know more. Be careful who you tell, Minho warned. Some secrets are kept for good reasons. That evening, Velther found Karathan in her meditation chamber. The old alien looked at him with her many eyes and sighed. You found out, she said simply. You knew? I was there during first contact. I was on one of the investigation ships that studied the disappearances. Kirathan's body shuddered, a sign of deep distress in her species. I still have nightmares, Velthor. After 800 years, I still see them when I close my eyes. See what? Humans, in the void, moving through space like fish through water. Their eyes reflected our ship's lights. They watched us, and I knew in that moment that we were prey and they were predators. Kirathan looked at her student. We ran, and we never spoke of it again. When humanity requested the boundary, I voted yes before anyone else. Velthor sat down heavily. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? Or would you have thought me a mad old fool? Kirathan's expression softened. Some truths must be discovered, not told. But now that you know, I beg you, do not cross that boundary. Whatever curiosity drives you, it is not worth the price. But Velthor was already thinking about what lay beyond the red line. About the humans who changed. About the truth everyone was hiding. And deep down, he knew he wouldn't be able to stop himself from looking. Velthor's ship was small, designed for research rather than combat. He had filed a false flight plan, claiming he was studying stellar formations in neutral space. In reality, he was heading straight for the boundary. His claws trembled on the controls as the red line approached on his navigation display. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back. But he had to know. He had to see with his own eyes what everyone was so afraid of. The moment he crossed the boundary, alarms blared. Not from his ship, but from something external. Warning buoys that humans had placed along the border activated, broadcasting urgent messages. Unidentified vessel, you have entered restricted space. Turn back immediately. Velthor silenced the warnings and pushed deeper into human territory. His sensors showed empty space ahead. No stations. No ships. Just the vast darkness between stars. Then his communication panel lit up. An incoming transmission from a human vessel. Unknown ship. This is patrol craft On's promise. You need to turn around right now. The voice belonged to a human woman. She sounded young and very worried. I'm just conducting research, Velthor lied. No, you're making a terrible mistake. Please, listen to me. My name is Yuna. I'm not trying to threaten you. I'm trying to save your life. Something in her voice made Velthor pause. This wasn't the tone of someone defending territory. This was fear. What are you afraid of? He asked. Not what? Who? Yuna's image appeared on his screen. She was indeed young, probably in her 20s by human standards. But her eyes looked much older. You don't understand what you're walking into. This isn't a military zone. It's a quarantine. I know about the humans who changed. The ones who can survive in space. Yuna's face went pale. If you know, then why are you here? Turn back before. Her voice cut off. She was looking at something off-screen. Oh no. Jiwan, tell me those aren't what I think they are. Another voice came through, male and panicked. 3 contacts. No, 5? No, they're multiplying. Captain, there's at least 20 of them between us and the civilian ship. Velthor, Yuna said urgently. I need you to shut down all your systems except life support. Right now. Don't question it. Just do it. Why would I? Because they're attracted to ship emissions. The less you broadcast, the less interesting you are to them. Please. Velthor's hands moved over the controls, shutting down engines, weapons, sensors. His ship went dark except for minimal life support. Through his viewport, he saw Yuna's patrol ship in the distance, also going dark. For several minutes, nothing happened. Velthor floated in silence, wondering if this was all an overreaction. Then he saw movement. Shapes passed in front of distant stars, blocking their light. They moved in ways that ships couldn't move. flowing through space with organic grace. Velther activated his ship's passive sensors, the ones that only received signals without broadcasting. What he saw made his blood freeze. They were humanoid. Arms, legs, a head. But wrong in every way. Their bodies were too long, too thin. Their fingers stretched into points. And they moved through vacuum as easily as Velther moved through air. One of them passed close to his viewport. Its skin was dark, almost black, covered in what looked like scales or plates. Its eyes glowed with a faint blue light. It turned its head toward his ship, and Velther saw its face thought it had been human once. He could see the remnants of human features. But now it was something else. Something adapted for the void. The creature pressed its hand against his viewport. Velther jerked back, even though the glass separated them. The hand had 7 fingers, each ending in a sharp point. The creature tilted its head, studying him with those glowing eyes. Then it pushed away and glided off into the darkness. Velther sat in his chair, shaking. His communication panel beeped softly. A text message from Una. Don't move. Don't transmit. Wait. He waited. It felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes. Finally, Una's voice came through again. They've moved on. You can power up, but keep your engines at minimum. Follow my ship. We're taking you to Mining Station 12. It's abandoned, but safe. What were those things? Later, just follow me. Velther did as instructed. Una's patrol ship led him deeper into human space, to a small asteroid with a station built into it. The station was dark, powered down. They docked in an empty bay dot when Velther exited his ship. Una and another human were waiting. The man was older, wearing a science officer's uniform. His name tag read, G1. You're an idiot, G1 said bluntly. A lucky idiot, but an idiot. What were those things? What did Minho tell you? Una asked. Velther's eyes widened. How do you know I talked to Minho? Because he reported the conversation to the diplomatic corps like he's supposed to. We've been tracking you since you started asking questions. Una led him through dark corridors, using a hand light. We knew you'd try something stupid. We just hoped you'd chicken out. They reached the station's command center. G1 activated emergency power, and dim lights flickered on. It pulled up old files on a dusty computer terminal. This station was evacuated 18 years ago, G1 explained. It was a mining operation, 100 workers. They were here for 5 years with no problems. Then people started acting strange, headaches, mood swings. One worker claimed she could hear the stars singing. Singing? Early stage symptoms of the change. By the time we realized what was happening, 12 workers were too far gone. G1 showed security footage. We tried to evacuate them. They refused. Said they didn't want to leave. Said they felt more alive here than they ever had. The footage showed humans stripping off their suits and walking into airlocks. They opened the outer doors and stepped into space. And they didn't die. We sealed the station from the outside, Una said quietly. Locked every exit. Called for containment teams. But the ones who had changed, they tore through the hull. Just ripped metal apart with their bare hands and left. Velther walked to one of the station's windows. He could see scratch marks on the frame. From the inside, where did they go? Out there. Into the deep dark. Same place all the others go. Una stood beside him. There are thousands of them now, Velther. Maybe tens of thousands. All the humans who went too far, changed too much. They live in the void between stars. They hunt. They feed on radiation and cosmic energy. They're not human anymore, but they were once. Yes, and that's the tragedy. Una's reflection in the window looked haunted. Every one of them had a name. A family. Dreams. They gave all that up, either by choice or because the change took them by surprise. Ji-Wan pulled up more files. We've been studying them for 400 years, trying to find a cure, a way to reverse the process. But once the change reaches a certain point, it's irreversible. The person they were is gone. Only the creature remains. And humanity just accepts this? We accept responsibility, Yuna corrected. This is our burden, our failing. We won't make it the galaxy's problem too. That's why the boundary exists. Outside the window, shapes moved in the distance. The changed humans, the Voidborn, drifting through space like ghosts. Velthor finally understood the terrible truth everyone had been trying to protect him from. Humanity hadn't isolated themselves out of fear or pride. They'd done it out of love. Love for a galaxy they didn't want to contaminate with their curse. We need to get you out of here, Yuna said, before more of them come. Before, an alarm blared through the station. Ji-Wan ran to the console, his face going white. We have a problem. They're coming back. A lot of them. Through the window, Velthor saw dozens of shapes approaching. The Voidborn were returning. And this time, they didn't look like they were just passing by. The Voidborn surrounded the station like a swarm of insects. Velthor counted at least 50 of them, their bodies silhouetted against the stars. They moved in patterns that seemed coordinated, almost intelligent. Why are they coming here? Velthor asked, backing away from the window. They're territorial, Ji-Wan said, his fingers flying over the console. The station is in their hunting ground. We're intruders, but we're not doing anything. We're just... A massive impact shook the station. Velthor grabbed the console to keep from falling. Through the window, he saw one of the Voidborn clinging to the hull. It was larger than the others, its body more heavily plated. It drove its pointed fingers into the metal like knives, tearing a chunk away. They're breaching the hull, Yuna shouted. She ran to a cabinet and pulled out emergency suits. Put this on now. Velthor struggled into the suit with shaking hands. More impacts echoed through the station. The Voidborn were attacking from multiple directions. I'm calling for extraction, Ji-Wan said, sending out a transmission. Containment teams are 20 minutes away. We don't have 20 minutes, Yuna replied. She sealed her helmet and grabbed Velthor's arm. We need to get to the ships. Move. They ran through the dark corridors. Behind them, Velthor heard the terrible sound of metal tearing. The Voidborn were inside the station dot as they ran. Yuna explained between breaths. The Voidborn are attracted to life signs, heat, movement, but they're also curious. You're the first non-human they've sensed in years. They want to investigate. Investigate by killing me? They don't think like we do anymore. To them, you're just interesting. They reached the docking bay, but what Velthor saw there made him stop in horror. His ship was covered in Voidborn. They crawled over it like ants, tearing at the hull with their claws. One of them had torn the cockpit open and was pulling out the control systems. My ship, forget it, Yuna said. We'll take the patrol ship. But the patrol ship wasn't safe either. More Voidborn were approaching it. Ji-Wan raised a device that looked like a weapon but hummed with a strange frequency. This is a resonance emitter, he explained. It disrupts their sense of direction. Gives us a few seconds. He activated it, and the Voidborn jerked away from the ship, their glowing eyes flickering. They scrambled aboard the patrol ship. Yuna took the pilot's seat while Ji-Wan sealed the airlock. The ship's engines roared to life. Hold on, Yuna said, and launched the ship straight up. Voidborn slammed into the hull as they ascended. Velthor heard their claws scraping against the metal. One of them clung to the viewport, staring at him with those terrible glowing eyes. It opened its mouth, and Velthor saw rows of sharp teeth that no human should have. Then Yuna fired the main engines, and the acceleration threw the creature off. They shot away from the station, but the Voidborn pursued. They moved faster than seemed possible, their bodies somehow propelling through space. "They're keeping up with us," Velther said in disbelief. "They can manipulate electromagnetic fields," G1 explained. "Use them for propulsion. That's how they move so fast. How do you know all this?" G1's expression darkened. "Because I used to study them. Before I realized what I was really studying were people I used to know." A new transmission came through. A calm male voice filled the cockpit. "Dawn's Promise, this is Containment Team 7. We see you're having company. Hold your course. We'll clear a path." 3 large human ships appeared on the sensors, moving to intercept. They weren't military vessels exactly, but they bristled with strange equipment. As the Voidborn closed in on the patrol ship, the containment vessels opened fire, but they didn't use conventional weapons. Instead, they projected fields of energy that seemed to repel the Voidborn. The creatures shrieked, a sound that traveled through radio waves rather than air and scattered. "What is that?" Velther asked. "Resonance field," Yuna said. "Only thing that works on them without killing them. We try not to kill them when we can help it." "Why not?" "They're dangerous." "Because they're still human," G1 said quietly. "Or they were. Some of us hold out hope that maybe, someday, we'll find a way to bring them back." The patrol ship docked with the lead containment vessel. A human man in a specialized suit met them in the airlock. He was older than Yuna and G1, with gray in his hair. His name tag read Hyan, Containment Specialist. "You 3 are lucky," Hyan said. "That was a hunting pack. If they'd been territorial defenders, we'd be recovering bodies." He looked at Velther. "And you're the alien who's been asking questions. I just wanted to understand. Well, now you do. Satisfied?" Hyan's tone was harsh, but his eyes showed concern rather than anger. "Come with me. There's something you need to see." Hyan led them to the ship's medical bay. Inside, a human woman floated in a containment chamber filled with glowing blue liquid. She looked normal at first glance, but Velther saw the telltale signs. Her fingers were too long. Her skin had dark patches that looked like forming plates. Her eyes opened, revealing a faint glow. "This is Nari," Hyan said. She was a deep space miner. 6 months ago, she started showing signs of the change. We pulled her back immediately and put her in treatment. "Can you cure her?" "No, but we can slow the process. Keep her human longer." Hyan placed his hand on the glass. The woman inside looked at him, and for a moment, Velther saw recognition in her eyes. "She has maybe 2 years left. Then the change will complete, and we'll have to let her go." "Let her go where?" "To join the others. We have a deep space station, far from everything. The changed ones who still have some awareness gather there. It's not a life, but it's something. Better than leaving them to drift in the void forever." Velther felt sick. "How many humans are like her?" "In treatment right now?" "About 300. Living at the deep station?" "Maybe 2,000. Out in the void, completely changed?" "We don't know." 10,000. 20,000. Maybe more." Hyan turned away from the chamber. "Every human who works in deep space knows the risk. We volunteer anyway, because someone has to watch the boundary. Someone has to make sure the Voidborn don't drift into inhabited space. And if they do, then we contain them. Guide them back to the deep dark. Sometimes we have to use force. It's..." Hyan's voice cracked. "It's the hardest thing we do. Fighting our own people, even after they've changed." G1 pulled up files on a nearby console. "Here's what you really need to understand, Velther. The change isn't random. It's triggered by exposure to a specific type of cosmic radiation found only in the deepest parts of space. For most species, this radiation is harmless. But human DNA has a quirk, a genetic marker that reacts to it. The file showed complex genetic sequences and radiation patterns. When humans are exposed long enough, their DNA begins to rewrite itself. It's like evolution in fast forward. The body adapts to survive in the void. Lungs become capable of processing trace hydrogen. Skin develops radiation shielding. The cardiovascular system learns to function in zero pressure. But the brain, Jiwan paused. The brain changes too. Personality breaks down. Memories fade. What remains is something primal, instinctive. Can't you just avoid those areas of space? We do, but space is vast and the radiation drifts. Plus, some resources only exist in deep space. We need them. So we rotate crews. Mandatory health screenings. Strict time limits. It works, mostly. But sometimes people slip through. Sometimes the change happens faster than expected. Yuna pulled up a star map. This is current human space. See how it's limited? We could expand 3 times this size with our technology. But we don't. Because beyond this boundary, the radiation gets too strong. Go too far, and the change becomes inevitable. Velthur looked at the map, understanding finally clicking into place. You've caged yourselves. Yes, Yuna said simply. We have. To protect the galaxy from what we might become. Hyan gestured to Nari's containment chamber. Every 6 months, every human in deep space gets tested. If you fail, you're pulled back. No exceptions. That's why our deep space presence is so limited. That's why we can't maintain trade routes or establish distant colonies. We can't risk it. But you're still out here. All of you. Because someone has to be, Hyan said. Someone has to watch the Voidborn. Guide them away from the boundary. Make sure they don't drift into other species' territory. He looked at Velthur directly. That's the real secret. The one we don't tell the Council. We're not just isolating ourselves. We're actively protecting you from the monsters we created. The containment ship took 2 days to reach the boundary. During that time, Velthur stayed in the observation deck, watching the Voidborn through reinforced windows. They followed the ship at a distance, like curious dolphins following a boat. But these were no friendly creatures. He saw them hunt smaller ones of their kind, saw them fight over territory. They were animals now. Driven by instinct, Hyan found him there on the 2nd day. You've been watching them for hours, the containment specialist said. I'm trying to see if there's anything human left. Velthur admitted, there isn't. Not in the ones that have fully changed. Hyan sat down beside him. But the new ones, the ones still changing? Sometimes they remember. Sometimes they cry. Those are the hardest cases. How do you do this job? How do you face them every day? Because someone has to. And because I understand them better than most. Hyan rolled up his sleeve, revealing his forearm. Velthur saw dark patches on the skin, the beginning of the scales he'd seen on the Voidborn. I've maybe 3 years left. Then I'll be like them. Velthur stared in shock. You're changing? I've been in deep space for 27 years. That's too long. I knew the risks, but containment work requires experience. Someone new can't do what I do. Hyan touched the patches on his arm. Every day I feel a little different. A little less like myself. But I keep working because every day I'm still me is another day I can help others. Can't you go back? Get treatment like Nari? I could. But then who would do my job? Who would talk down the newly changed ones? Who would guide the hunting packs away from the boundary? Hyan smiled sadly. No, I made my choice. When the time comes, I'll go to the deep station. Live out whatever time I have left with others like me. Maybe I'll even recognize some old friends among the Voidborn. Before Velther could respond, an alarm sounded. Yuna's voice came over the intercom. We're approaching the boundary. Velther, please report to the bridge. On the bridge, Yuna and G1 were preparing for final approach. Another ship appeared on the sensors, coming from Council space. Velther recognized the signature. It was a diplomatic vessel. Ambassador Tammin is here, Yuna said. He wants to speak with you before you cross back. A view screen activated, showing Tammin in his formal robes. But unlike their first meeting, his expression was serious. Velther, Tammin said, I hear you've had quite an educational journey. You knew I would cross the boundary. We suspected. You're not the first to ask questions, though you're the first to actually cross in many years. Tammin folded his hands. Now you know our secret. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? I don't understand. Why hide it? The galaxy should know what you're sacrificing, should they? Tammin asked. What would happen if we told the full truth? Other species would panic. They'd demand we eliminate the Voidborn entirely. They'd insist on quarantine protocols that would strangle what's left of human civilization. They'd treat us like a plague. Hannah appeared behind Tammin on the screen. We told the Council enough 400 years ago that there was a biological issue, that we needed isolation. They agreed because they saw enough to be afraid, but not so much that they felt compelled to take action against us. It's a delicate balance, Tammin continued. We protect the galaxy by containing our problem. The galaxy allows us to exist by not asking too many questions. Everyone benefits, but you're suffering in silence. We're taking responsibility, Hannah corrected. This is our burden, our species' unique curse. We won't make it yours. Velther thought about Nari in her containment chamber, about Hyan's dark patches, about the thousands of Voidborn drifting in the deep dark. How long can you maintain this? As long as we need to, Tammin said. Humanity has survived worse. We adapt. We endure. That's what we do. But you're sacrificing so much. Your expansion. Your future. Your people. Every species makes sacrifices, Hannah said. Some sacrifice resources. Some sacrifice comfort. We sacrifice our freedom to roam the stars. It's a high price, but we pay it willingly. The ships were approaching the boundary line now. Soon Velther would cross back into Council space, and this nightmare would be behind him. I need to know, Velther said. Why did you let me live? Why rescue me? I broke your laws, entered your space without permission. You could have let the Voidborn have me. Tammin's expression softened. Because despite everything, we're still human. We still value life. We still believe in protecting others, even when they make foolish choices. He paused. And because we need someone to understand. Someone who can tell our story if the worst ever happens. What do you mean? The radiation that causes the change is spreading, G1 said from his station. Slowly, but measurably. In 500 years, maybe 1,000, it will reach our core worlds. Even Earth. Velther felt cold. What will you do? We're working on a cure. A genetic treatment. Something to block the change before it starts. Yuna turned from the pilot's controls. But if we can't find one in time, then one day, all of humanity might have to choose. Stay on Earth and slowly die as the radiation reaches us, or leave and become Voidborn. That's why the Deep Station exists, Hyan added. We're studying the changed ones, learning how they survive. If the worst happens, if all humanity must change, we want to preserve as much of our consciousness as possible. Make the transformation controlled instead of random. You're planning to become monsters? We're planning to survive, Tammin said firmly. and to ensure that if we must become voidborn, we do it in a way that doesn't threaten the rest of the galaxy. That's why the boundary must hold. Why our isolation must continue. The ship crossed the boundary line. Velther was back in council space, safe. Behind them, the Voidborn stopped following, as if they understood the invisible line they could not cross. "Return to the council," Tiemann said. "Tell them you found nothing but empty space. Tell them humanity prefers isolation. Keep our secret or share it. The choice is yours. But understand this. If you reveal the full truth, you'll start a panic that could lead to war. Species will demand we eliminate the Voidborn. Some might even try to eliminate all humans to prevent the spread." Velther looked at the faces on the screen. Taemin, Hannah, Yuna, Jiwon, Hyan, all of them carrying this terrible burden. All of them sacrificing their futures to protect a galaxy that didn't even know it needed protecting. "I won't tell," Velther said finally. "The full truth, I mean. I'll report that I found evidence of a human medical condition that requires isolation." "That's accurate enough. Thank you," Taemin said quietly. "But I want something in return. Let me help. Let the council help, even if they don't know the full details. Share your research on the cure. Maybe other species' genetics can offer insights." Taemin considered this. "We can share some data. Frame it as theoretical genetic research. It's worth trying." The diplomatic vessel turned back toward human space. But before the transmission ended, Velther spoke again. "Soman, where is she?" "The rescue captain who saved me at the station." Yuna's expression became pained. "She's at the deep station now. The final tests came back. She has 6 months left, maybe less." Velther remembered Soman's face, her determined expression as she guided him to safety. "Can I speak with her?" A new face appeared on the screen. Soman looked different than Velther remembered. Her eyes had that faint glow now, and dark patches covered her neck. But she smiled when she saw him. "You made it back," she said. "Good. I wanted to thank you for saving me. Just doing my job." Soman's smile was sad. "I knew it would probably be my last rescue. Glad it was a successful one. I'm sorry for what's happening to you." "Don't be. I volunteered for deep space duty. I knew the price." She looked past the camera, toward something Velther couldn't see. "It's not so bad, really. I can feel the change happening, but it doesn't hurt. It's almost peaceful, like coming home to a place I never knew existed. Will you remember? When you fully change?" "Probably not. But that's okay. The me that exists now will end, but something new will begin. That's just another kind of life, isn't it?" Soman's image flickered. "I need to go. Take care, Velther. And remember us. Remember what we gave up." The transmission ended. Velther sat alone in the quiet bridge as his ship carried him back to the council station. He thought about everything he'd learned. About the Voidborn drifting in darkness. About humans like Hyan and Soman sacrificing themselves to protect others. About an entire species choosing isolation over expansion. Choosing responsibility over freedom. When he returned to the council, Kyrathan was waiting for him. "You crossed," she said simply. "I did. And I understand now why you never spoke of it." Velther looked at his old mentor. "Humanity carries a burden I never imagined. And they carry it alone, asking nothing in return. Will you tell the council? Enough to let them help, if they can. Not enough to cause panic." Velther looked out at the stars. "Somewhere out there, humans are becoming monsters to keep us safe. The least we can do is respect their sacrifice." Kyrathan put a gentle appendage on his shoulder. "You've grown wise, student. And sadder. That's the price of truth." Velther returned to his quarters and began writing his report. He would tell the council about a medical condition, about the need for isolation, about humanity's request for privacy being honored.